The big question which has been asked in urban areas now is, what do we do about public transit? The car has obviously ceased to provide the answer. Congestion in most cities is now getting to the point where people are forced to recognize the problem, even though they may not want to. It's silly for 50 people to use 35 cars to get downtown and park those 30 cars. The alternative would be for 50 people to use one bus to get downtown and to park one bus. But it's very difficult to explain to a man that he has to get up 35 minutes earlier to take an extended route, stopping every 100 yards to pick up one passenger and let another one off, this sort of thing, when he knows that he wants to go 10 miles from his house directly to downtown. And he also knows that most of his neighbors want to do the same thing. Well, I'm a resident of the dormitory suburb of Ottawa, which is known as the Beacon Hill area. Members of this community, which is outside the city boundaries, had a year ago no public transportation to their main area of work, which was in the downtown core. The only possible alternative was the extension of an existing public transportation service, but this area is a two-lane road, heavily congested and equipped with bus stops every minute. After 2 years of fruitless negotiations between the local politicians, the citizens of my community got together and through their community association decided to establish their own service. We found a bus operator, and within 5 weeks of the time of deciding to do something of it, the service was established, making a pickup route through our community, joining Queensway, which is a fast expressway across town, and leaving Queensway to one of the main downtown arterials. The service, which was established with one bus in June 1971, has now grown to 9 buses providing fast, efficient transportation services for 600 passengers a day to the downtown core. When we decided that we needed a bus service and that we couldn't wait for the public authorities to make up their minds and do something about it, we started out on the basis that this service has to pay or it dies.
In any community, you can normally find quite a wide range of specialized talent. 3 of us in our group are transportation economists, so we had a pretty good idea as to costs and scheduling problems. We figured that if we were going to provide an express service, we could charge people maybe a little bit more than what they would pay if they travel on the OTC. We had a weekly ticket which cost people $3.50 a week, so it's 35 cents a ride. As well as that, we also had a 5-ride ticket which was valid any time, and this cost 50 cents a ride.
When we started with a $200 advance from the community association. We knew that we had enough revenue from subscribed passengers to pay for the first bus for the first week, but from the day that bus started, we never looked back. The frequency of the service is now such that there is a bus at least every half hour between 4 and 6 p.m. and at certain times every 5 minutes. We find that 80% of the people in Beacon Hill who work downtown now use this service, and our gross revenue is reaching $150,000 a year. Thank you very much. I'll try and be quiet.
Hey, you go. I think we had a rather sort of cavalier attitude in the early days. I remember Monday mornings was always a busy morning for ticket collection, and if something went wrong, one of the ticket collectors slept in or something like that, somebody would run out of tickets. I did something even stupider than that. I left them behind one Monday morning, and not knowing what to do, I issued all the business cards that I had for the price of the weekly ticket, and we had quite a job collecting them all in during the week and issuing the proper tickets. But at least we got the money.
Do you know if the Blackburn Express?
5 to 10 minutes behind.
This has since all been turned to capital coach lines, because we found after the first year, and once we were getting 13 bus trips in the morning and evening, that it was getting difficult to maintain a volunteer system.
This is John Charleworth. John is president of Capital Coach Lines. He's the guy who's been providing the buses for us, and he's done a really good job for us.
And I remember the first day we operated our bus, I think there was 50 people in it, this would never happen if we'd operated this on our own. We might have had one person,
actually,
you know, we might have had one to start off with. And it would have taken over a year to bring it up to 50 or 60 families.
We had the situation where we had very bad traffic, and I think it was because the bus was going very slowly, and the drain on the battery was too great, and the bus stalled. And several people got out, and they pushed it down the Queensway, and the driver figured out what was happening, and he put the clutch in, and we got the thing started again.
I really think that cooperation between the community
Well, you needed that help that time, didn't you? We're competing with the private car here. The service must be reliable, but above all, it must be fast.
We were initially using drivers trained for school bus runs, and we had to repeat the first week, you're an express bus, get in the fast lane, stay there. And now all of the drivers perform admirably in this respect.
We still got a kick every time Wilmer puts his foot down on the Queensway. Well, we can do it in half an hour, and on the OTC I wouldn't like to try it. It would be at least an hour, maybe hour and a quarter, I would think, in the worst time.
You are never going to be able to substitute buses for 100% of the cars. One should not even attempt to do so, because it is extremely expensive. What we should try to do is to get as many people out of their cars as we can, as long as we can do this economically.
Each car on the Queensway is taking approximately 1.4 people, and so in effect we're carrying the equivalent of something like 350 cars a day.
The congestion like this doesn't occur that frequently because we have tried to sort the number of buses out and the size of bus to meet the peculiar passenger demands. It's only courtesy of you fellows that we're in fact in trouble tonight.
When we set up the bus service, we had quite a few people call us saying, are you going to put this bus in, because if you don't, I'm going to have to buy another car. With no public transport at all, if the wife wants to get out of the prison where she's living, she has to have another car. I moved out to Beacon Hill because I had to have relatively low-cost housing. You move out to Beacon Hill, it's outside the city. We're in the township of Gloucester, and you find that you have no transport to get you to work. So you're forced either to using your own car or to forming a carpool. And there was some negotiations going on with the city, but because we were in Gloucester, there's the city of Ottawa that was involved. We just didn't have any service. And this is one of the problems we found, that the different levels of government that are involved. There's the city, the township, the province. The province controls the Queensway here, and there's also the federal government involved, together with the regional municipalities.
Because of the very poor layout of the community in terms of design of streets for a suitable collector service for a bus, we found it necessary to, in fact, break some of our runs into two sections, and we now use a very beautifully working feeder bus service in some areas.
People, it's perfectly true, think of it as their service, and so when it on one of those few occasions something goes wrong, a bus blows a tire or something, it's thought of as their bus blowing a tire, and rather than being mad, they're very understanding and tolerate the situation.
Do you blow many tires?
No,
Not one.
might get stuck in the odd snowdrift, but that's about all.
Studies previously have shown that people require luxury equipment to be induced to leave their cars at home and travel on public transit. With all due respect to John, these are not luxury buses. They have been designed to carry school children, partly because we have such a small distance to go and the time is short that we're on it. We've found that people have been attracted in droves to this equipment.
We have found also that this equipment is extremely maneuverable in our fairly narrow suburban streets. It doesn't pose a problem in terms of block-in streets, or residents are in fact used to a school bus circulating within the streets for school bus functions, and they are quite prepared to accept it as a commuter bus.
Don't you enjoy being picked up by me every night?
Oh, yes. It makes my day. I told you I could take an earlier bus, but I wouldn't have half as much fun bugging, is it Fred? Who's the one before you?
Frank.
Couldn't bug him. Besides, he doesn't like going down Fillmore. Every time I go on the bus, he always asks if there's anyone from Fillmore. He tries to bypass it.
I don't know how he could forget you.
Oh, I love you.
Sorry about that.
Doesn't matter. Good night.
Good night, bus.
Good night, bus. I go first.
You know, she lives in Beacon Hill. She rides the Beacon Hill Express, and she goes out with a Blackburn driver.
Good night, John.
Good night. Good night.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
If we'd sat back and complained about the situation that we found ourselves in, we'd still be in our carpools today. I think we've shown that if you want something badly enough, you can get up and do something about it yourself instead of waiting for somebody else to do it for you.
Here at least is one example of an urban experiment that can meet its own costs, which seems to provide some of the answers to our urban transportation problems. Within our own city, other communities have said, why can't we do the same thing?